Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the men and women of the West Point Health Service area gathered to celebrate the ceremonial opening of Brian D. Allgood Ambulatory Clinic. The host for today's ceremony is Colonel Brian S. Burlingame. Our special guest includes Major General Kenneth Dahl, Brigadier General Timothy Traynor, Brigadier General Stephen Anderson, retired, and State Assemblyman James Scofus. Our official party today consists of Lieutenant General Robert L. Caslin, Superintendent, United States Military Academy, Colonel Brian S. Burlingame, Commander, West Point Health Service Area, Command Sergeant Major Vincent E. Bond, Command Sergeant Major, West Point Health Service Area, Colonel Michael Brennan, Commander, United States Army Health Facility Planning Agency, and Colonel David A. Caldwell, Commander, New York District of the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and Mr. Bradley Allgood. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of the official party. Remain standing for musical honors, the playing of our national anthem, sung by Master Sergeant Messenger, along with the West Point Band Quintet, and the invocation given by Chaplain John P. Manuel.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Invite you to pray with me this morning. God our Father, as we look to the past and to the future, we are filled with gratitude to you. Thank you for the gift of Dr. Brian Allgood's life, dedicated to healing, service, and sacrifice. Thank you for the resources, thoughtful planning, and diligent labor that have made this place a reality. And thank you for the many generations of lives that this clinic will help to heal, restore, and bless for your glory. In the name of the great physician, I pray. Amen.
Please be seated. Prior to 2012, it became clear that additional space was required for the Keller Army Community Hospital to maintain superior quality health care for our beneficiaries. On 15 March 2012, ground was broken to begin construction, and after 3 years of consideration, planning, and upgrades, the Brian D. Allgood Ambulatory Clinic now stands before you today. The Allgood Clinic has an additional 51,218 square feet of space, which incorporates primary care, orthopedics, podiatry, physical therapy, optometry, a TRICARE service center, staff and administration support. Its inherent design, placement, and patient access helped bring Keller and its beneficiaries to the forefront of modern medicine. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General Robert Caslin.
Well, thank you very much. What a great turnout, what a beautiful day. Assemblyman Skofis and General Dahl, great to have you with us. Tim Traynor, General Steve Anderson, great to have you with us as well. Friends and family of Colonel Allgood, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to West Point, home of the world's preeminent military development, leader development institution. Today we're here to formally open this new addition to our top-notch medical facilities here at West Point. This new clinic will be a great addition to our world-class medical capacity, creating a modernized ambulatory environment for providing health care to the West Point community. This new clinic provides additional space and enhanced capability at Keller while improving patient care. This significant enhancement for the quality of life for our community is long overdue, and we're glad to have it. At the same time, or perhaps more importantly, we're here to honor one of our own, a fellow member of the Long Gray Line, who gave his life in service to our nation and who is the namesake for this facility. Colonel Brian Allgood, husband and father, soldier, doctor, leader, teammate, and friend. The son of an Army doctor and Vietnam veteran, Brian followed his dad's footsteps and earned an appointment to West Point, where he graduated in 1982. Brian earned his medical degree from the University of Oklahoma and served in a variety of assignments through the Army, including assignments with the 75th Ranger Regiment, where he parachuted into Panama during Operation Just Cause in 1989, and the 82nd Airborne Division. In 2002, Brian returned to West Point as commander of Keller Army Community Hospital and as the West Point surgeon. On January 20th, 2007, while serving as a command surgeon for Multinational Forces Iraq, Brian, along with 11 other soldiers, were killed when their Black Hawk helicopter was shot down by hostile fire over Baghdad. Our mission at the United States Military Academy is to educate, train, and inspire leaders of character who are committed to the values of duty, honor, and country, and prepare them for a career of service to our nation as Army officers. Brian Allgood's life and career exemplified what it means to be a leader of character. Our values of duty, honor, and country were the foundation of his life and his work. He was a humble, caring leader who inspired all who he served with or led. One NCO described him this way: he seemed like he was 7 foot tall, and yet he was so approachable. He was like no other commanding officer I have ever met. He touched many lives, and he was an absolute positive role model for so many young men and women throughout his military career. Another fellow officer said, "I witnessed the work of a man who truly got it, had the opportunity to know a man who was a life changer. Through his mere presence and his deeds, his influence on those around him has been undeniable. His influence will live and grow for decades to come, and he will never truly be lost." So we're privileged to honor the life and service of Colonel Allgood through this new clinic as a place that will carry on the legacy of Brian's work, taking care of soldiers and taking care of their families. On behalf of the entire West Point community, I'd like to thank everybody involved in the planning and construction of this new clinic, and especially thank Colonel Burlingame and his team at Keller for their outstanding work they do every day in taking care of our cadets, our soldiers, retirees, and their families. Thank you all for being here today to honor Brian.
Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Brian S. Burlingame.
Good morning, Lieutenant General Caslin, Major General Dahl, Brigadier General Traynor, Brigadier General Retired Anderson, Command Sergeant Major Clark, Command Sergeant Major Rumpelmeyer. I am honored to share the dais today with Mr. Bradley Allgood and Command Sergeant Major Retired Rick Alcantara. Today, we officially open Brian D. Allgood Ambulatory Clinic, a home built by superb efforts from countless men and women often behind the scenes and with little fanfare. Brian Allgood is the right name to open this facility that serves the United States Military Academy, whose primary mission is to develop leaders of character, which defines the quality of leader that Brian D. Allgood was. I have followed Brian in 2 commands, and as someone who followed him out the door in Panama related to me, he was the real deal. I want to thank Colonel Brennan and Colonel Caldwell for the outstanding and faithful work that Health Facilities Planning Agency and the New York District Corps of Engineers have given over the last 7 years overseeing this project. I would like to thank the men and women of Gilbane who assumed the task of completing a stalled project and worked faithfully through a difficult winter to deliver this beautiful facility that will serve the West Point community for decades. I'd like to thank Master Sergeant Messenger, Major Manuel, Sergeant Wozniak, and the string quartet for adding the right sense of gravitas to the ceremony. Finally, I'd like to thank and recognize the great staff of the Keller family that have all in some way sacrificed to make this day possible. I applaud the seamless manner in which you have transitioned to your new home and maintain the high standards of quality care and customer service that makes us the #1 hospital in the Army.
Ladies and gentlemen, Command Sergeant Major Retired Ricardo Alcantara.
Good morning. Lieutenant General Caslin, Major General Dahl, Brigadier General Trainer, Colonel Burlingame, friends, family, good morning. I am retired Command Sergeant Major Rick Alcantara, and I have the honor and distinction of making remarks on behalf of Jane Allgood, widow of my former commander and good friend, Colonel Brian D. Allgood. I served with Colonel Allgood as his Command Sergeant Major for over 4 years, here in Keller, as well as in the 18th Medical Command in the Republic of Korea. Today we honor Colonel Allgood, but now I would like to speak to you about the man. Some of you may not have had the pleasure of serving with Brian, so allow me to tell you a little bit about him. He was an incredible commander, leader, soldier, husband, father who was admired, respected, and loved by all who came in contact with him. I have always had personal memories of our service together. You develop that close personal relationship when you spend so many hours working together. We used to kid around that we spent so much time together more than with our own families. We drove, we flew, we sat together on the KTX, that's the Korean bullet train, went to the field and visited soldiers, as well as my accompanying him during our Memorandum of Understanding signings with the Korean Medical Center's CEOs. Spending so much time together would often lead to long talks about work, yes, but more often about family, religion, sports, and other things that make a friendship special. His passing was tragic, and it emotionally impacted many that served with him. I received many emails from former officers, NCOs, and civilians that work with him, and today I would like to share some of those messages so you can hopefully understand just how deeply his soldiers, senior leaders, and friends and staff from all over the world respected and admired and loved him. Colonel Brian D. Allgood graduated not far from here, as you know, at the United States Military Academy in 1982, medical school at the University of Oklahoma, and finished his residency program at Brooke Army Medical Center. Those who worked for him admired his ability to put them at ease. Brian was known to visit his staff members at workplace and have a leisurely conversation and check on how they were doing. Chief Muhammad, medical maintenance here at Keller as well as at 121. He would come down to the basement and quietly walk into my office, and I'd jump up with a traditional greeting. He would tell me to sit down, and he would come in and take a seat and just talk. Not about work, just about how things were going. Granted, he could have easily riddled me with questions about equipment maintenance, but he never did. All he did was just talk. He had a confidence in me that I was handling my job in a manner in which he did not have to micromanage me, and I respected him greatly for that. Vicky Sumnak, his aide-de-camp in Korea. There are many lessons I learned from Colonel Allgood that have continued to serve me well throughout my years as an officer. One of his favorite sayings, "It is what it is." Little did I know how important this saying would be when facing the daily challenges as a leader and in the delivery of healthcare. This little saying taught me that unless I was willing to attempt everything life has to throw at me, that I would not succeed. 2, always the hard right over the easy wrong. Even when someone isn't looking, the commander, Command Sergeant Major, and myself would go TDY in the Korean Peninsula. Colonel Allgood had just had a knee surgery a few days earlier, and I could tell he wasn't feeling that great. Slightly limping when he came upon a grassy area with not a soul in sight. Regretfully saying, both CSM and I were just going to walk through the grass, and Colonel Allgood hesitated. He opted to walk around the long perimeter and not walk on the grass. It seems like such a trivial thing, but I learned from him at that moment that officers are the standard bearers, and we should not cut corners on even the littlest things, because then what stops us from doing it on bigger things. I always used to watch him walk from his home to the hospital and back, and he always took that long cement path. I always think about these instances and type of leader he was whenever I am struggling with a decision. Former VA Secretary and Army Surgeon General James B. Peake. I had a privilege of working with Brian Allgood in several occasions. First at Fort Bragg, where Jane was my closer association, a great log officer married to this up-and-comer surgeon at the home of the airborne. Later at Fort Sam, Brian came to command a battalion at Ames Center and School. A more superb leader I could not have had. Soldiers, students, cadre, drill sergeants all appreciated his calm and decisive leadership. Leadership from the front. Later, it was his command in Korea and his leadership role as the surgeon in Iraq that I had, as a civilian, an additional window on his leadership. His loss was ours personally and institutionally. General Hondo Campbell, Forces Command. I had a distinct honor to serve with Colonel Brian Allgood while we were both at 8th Army, and I spoke at his eulogy after Brian made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our great nation. As I said then, Colonel Brian Allgood was a loving husband, a caring father, a devoted son, a beloved brother, a wonderful friend, a splendid soldier, a steadfast comrade, an unwavering patriot, and a committed Christian. As a soldier, physician, and leader, Brian was others-focused. He put others first at all times and all circumstances. Colonel retired Scott Cass. I had the privilege serving as Brian's deputy commander here at Keller during the last 2 years he was in command. I look back at that assignment as a special time filled with fond memories of the great staff we had, but especially for the great leader we had in Brian Allgood. Brian was the consummate professional who set high standards for himself and for the entire organization. We willingly followed Brian because we respected and cared for him so much. We did this because Brian was genuinely cared for everyone in his command. He was smart, he was tough and disciplined, yet he was also very approachable with a terrific sense of humor. Brian was our commander, and everybody was extremely proud of that. We did our best for Brian because no one wanted to let him down. We worked hard, but yet we had fun too. Brian pushed us to achieve excellence, yet at the same time, it was a joy to come to work. We especially took on Brian's personality. We worked hard, we played hard, and we took care of one another. Morale was sky high under Brian's leadership. During his command, Keller Army Community Hospital led the U.S. Army Medical Command in patient satisfaction scores, joint commission readiness, and virtually every meaningful performance metrics of excellence that the AMED was counting on. We were the best, and we knew it. Brian would not have wanted it any other way. Now, years later, as I reflect on Brian and how much he meant to me and everyone he served with, I realize he never really left. Brian is part of all of us. A few years later, when I had the privilege of taking command at Fort Eustis, Virginia, I approached the assignment with confidence, knowing that I had been mentored by one of the best leaders in the Army. Many of the colleagues who served with me under Brian's command at West Point feel the same way. They all mention what a profound impact Brian had on them. They not only had become better officers, NCOs, civilians, leaders, but in many other ways, become better people as well. I miss Brian very much, but I take solace in the fact that his legacy lives on in all of us. Colonel retired Bill Dukas, a high school friend and orthopedic buddy. Great person, great surgeon, great leader, great American, great friend. Brian was great at everything he did and represented someone whom all wanted to be like. He embodied what was good in people and good in humanity. Also commanded respect. He commanded respect because he exuded respect to his friends, his family, his leaders, and his subordinates. His confident yet unassuming leadership style was the foundation of his can-do spirit, where he was truly admired, respected, and loved by all who came in contact with him. Colonel Allgood and I served with the 75th Ranger Regiment, and then again together at Fort Bragg, where we remained affiliated with the Special Operations Unit. He was the consummate team player and always put others above self. A promise was a promise, and you could always depend on him. We grew up together, both personally and professionally, as young orthopedists at Fort Bragg, where we pushed one another to be the best we could be. When Brian and I would go running, it seemed he would always run one step faster than me. No matter what, my pace, but would never run 2 steps ahead. And so it was of Brian Allgood, by your side, a natural leader, pulling you to be better than you ever thought you could be. He was one to emulate. His integrity was impeccable, and when having a conversation with Brian, it was just that, a conversation where he listened, he understood, and advised if asked. What more can you ask of a friend? Lieutenant Colonel Nate Todd, Korea. During my tour in Korea, I followed Colonel Allgood up MP Hill at Yongsan, Korea Garrison. We began to rename the MP Hill, if you guys have been in Yongsan, MP Hill, the Medcom Hill, due to the many times he took 18th Medcom up that hill. The hill was about 400 yards at an incline of 35 to 40 degrees. Of the 12 or 18 times we took that hill, I may have made the hill 3 or 4 times without breaking formation. However, each time I got to the top of the hill, Colonel Allgood had circled the entire formation back around to pick up 50 or so soldiers that had not made the hill. A formation of about 700 soldiers, he never left anyone behind. Miss Chris Palau, infection control nurse here at Keller. I remember the time I threw the whipped cream pie in his face for a fundraiser the hospital was conducting. I have pictures to prove it to you. I also have it, Chris. I paid $25 for the privilege of getting back at him for all the times he would see me and say things like, "Don't you have work to do?" Or, "What are we paying you for?" Things like that. So the morning of the pie throwing, he had no idea that I had paid the most money to get him back. When he realized it was me and it was payback time, he started sweating profusely. The chaplain came over and made the sign of a cross over him while I was warming up my throwing arm. When I walked up to Brian, he looked me square in the eye and said, "I'll never forget that you did this to me." That was the last thing he said before getting slammed. But that was Brian. He knew when it was time to lead, and he knew when it was time to play. We are all lucky to be able to say he was our friend. Miss Gallagher, Chief Quality Division here at Keller. I remembered his speech very well when he came to West Point. Stay focused and never forget what is important, your religious beliefs and family. When he said those words, it was the first time I ever saw the human side of a commander. On the lighter side, I will never forget when we went TDY to Chicago. Colonel Allgood's suitcase had literally exploded on the airport luggage conveyor belt. He was extremely good-natured about the embarrassing incident and joked to all the nurses that was with him that they now knew what type of underwear he wore. Brian's philosophy of stay focused on and never forget what is important to you, religious beliefs, family, others, and act accordingly. And when the going gets tough, go ahead, take a knee. But stand up and drive on. It is extremely fitting that we are honoring this great soldier, patriot, and hero today by naming this new facility the Brian D. Allgood Ambulatory Clinic. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, to dedicate this new facility and declare its official opening, Lieutenant General Caslin, Colonel Burlingame, Command Sergeant Major Bond, Colonel Brennan, Colonel Caldwell, and Mr. Allgood will now conduct the ceremonial cutting of the ribbon. At this time, Colonel Burlingame and Command Sergeant Major Bond will present the Allgood family with a gift from the West Point Health Service area commemorating the ceremonial opening. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us today. Please rise for the playing of the Army song, remain standing for the departure of the official party, and immediately following, we invite everyone to join us for the unveiling of the Brian D. Allgood plaque inside the Addition's new main lobby.
March along, sing a song with the army of the free. Count the brave, count the true, who have fought to victory. We're the army and proud of our name. We're the army and proudly proclaim. First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might. And the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. Then it's hi, hi, hey, the army's on its way. Count off the cadence loud and strong, for wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along.
Ladies and gentlemen, following this unveiling of the plaque, we will proceed to our cake cutting ceremony in the waiting area located in the room to your right. Upon conclusion of the cake cutting, the Brian Allgood Ambulatory Clinic will be available for tours. The plaque reads, Brian Dwayne Allgood, MD, Colonel, United States Army, husband, father, soldier, doctor, leader, teammate, and friend. Colonel Brian D. Allgood was born in Regensburg, Germany, 19 October 1960. He graduated from the United States Military Academy in 1982 with a Bachelor of Science degree. After receiving a doctorate in medicine from the University of Oklahoma, he interned in general surgery at Brooke Army Medical Center from 1986 to 1987. He completed his residency in orthopedic surgery at Brooke Army Medical Center from 1990 to 1994, and subsequently became board certified. Colonel Allgood was the commander of Keller Army Community Hospital in the United States Military Academy Surgeon, West Point, New York, from 2002 to 2004. While serving as Command Surgeon, Multinational Forces Iraq, Camp Victory, Iraq, Colonel Allgood and 11 other people were killed when their UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter was shot down by hostile fire on 20 January 2007.
Well, thank you everybody for attending. We have refreshments in the room next door, and there'll be a slideshow honoring Colonel Allgood.